Hi guys, how's it going? Hopefully it's going great. I'm just gonna check the chat real quick. How's it going? It's going good for me. It's going good for everybody. Good to hear. Hopefully nobody's liquidated in the last 24 hours. This was dude, that was a 8% move down. That's a decent move down. Almost considered a flash dump or crash. Hopefully like nobody's liquidating in the call here. Let's hope for that. By the way, we have like Waffle XBT today with us, like one of like the OG members
Anyways,
of Shinicord and also like a great volumetric trader. And we're gonna talk about like life and we're gonna talk about like markets today. Hopefully it's gonna be a pretty good stream. What are your thoughts on like current market price, Waffle?
well, I mean, at the minute we've kind of dumped from I think it was monthly, or yeah, I think it was like monthly or like yearly open, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking at the minute we've got like a big weekly gap, um, around about 90K. I'm thinking, yeah, 90K, and then if we end up holding weekly value, then we should continue going higher. But I mean, if we tag that weekly view up and we don't like, we don't like clear it, we should end up taking out those lows today.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I mean, at the minute it's still range bound for me.
Yeah. Right. For me, like at the moment, I felt like it was the right decision to go long here. I mean, we like a lot of us I know, like a lot of our friends like Waffled as well, like went long around here because that was just like something that we explained in the last stream as well. That was just like a prime pivot of just like reversal right here. And pretty much everybody was long. A lot of people played this like short as well. Like Waffle, like pretty much everybody I knew. But like this low here. I think like some people were expecting a bit lower, but the way like swept this low, and I know some people that were waiting for these equivalent lows to be taken, even though like it could have like gone a bit lower. But I guess there were just enough momentum around these lows to like kick back price back up. Is why I didn't really have a better long down there, but I did like I ape onto a better long just now. That was like just before the stream. I'm like, okay, I'm probably gonna just like ape into this like grind up because like most of the time what happens like low liquid like environments, I'll probably consider this to be like something like this in a volume profile where it just like is to me like a void where whenever price comes into a void it just like rotates all the way up to the other pivot, just simple AMT rotations. Yeah. And that's my positioning so far. Let's just go real quick over the higher time frame and how it looks like on the lower time frame as well. What do you think of the higher time frame? You can, by the way, you can like mark on my chart as well. You should have like a pen tool on the bottom left for your screen, Waffle.
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can draw on my
I think
chart
with
as
the
well.
high five, so like you've got this range here, right? This
Yeah,
range in green. And I think if you turn on the weekly V up as well, you can kind of
weekly
like
up.
print that out like the monthly. Yeah.
I don't have the tool. I'll just have to like
This,
manually mark that shit. Usually I just like draw
yeah.
them from the like the swing low where it's like 7 days before.
Yeah.
25, somewhere around here. Yeah, like just consider that.
But is this like a manual, like, is this like anchored?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Easy, easy. Okay, so like right here, you've got like all these single prints here, right?
right.
And you have like this range. You've got like a big empty value here, right? And I always say like with these
Yeah,
empty values, they tend to get retraced quickly. So it's like if we end up tagging here, and then we end up building kind of support above, like, above this consolidation, then we should just go higher and like, do a mean reversion or like, tag the value
that would
area low
yeah
that's like,
that would be like the ideal scenario, right? Usually, what I
yeah,
prefer is like whenever price comes into like a voidy structure, it just like rotates all the way straight up. But if it starts to like form
yeah,
like a value, like sort of a structure just in the middle that supports a
yeah,
specific trend, it just like ends up being like a bottom that would like extend price up, like maybe even taking all these
yeah,
highs
yeah,
right here. That's like the ideal
yeah.
scenario for me.
I think the other thing as well is that like you got like this previous range here as like as like so basically you've got like the old range here that was like a 6 week or 8 week range, right? And
Yeah,
you can kind of see how like got range bound inside of it.
right.
Here I think I was saying this in the server as well, like you had like low time frame trays that you could grab like inside like high volume nodes within this area. But I think like the fact that like you've got this previous value that you're also traversing within weekly value. I think like if we do tag that weekly view up there, we shouldn't really dip too hard. We should just like maintain this support and then go higher, right?
True.
But then it's like if we end up, rejecting here or here, I think, like I said, like I think we end up taking out these lows around here, and then like if we get like a higher low here, then it's fair enough. But then it's like if we end up, going down again, and then we start rejecting weekly value, then we take out this low, and then we go for the 82K area here, right? But I think like zooming out on higher time frame, you've got like your monthly and quarterly brackets, right? That are like
Yeah.
super important at the minute. Um, if you can just delete my drawings.
Yeah, I'll just delete your drawings real quick. Like the monthly and the weekly bracket. Let me see. The monthly open is like around here somewhere, I think. Like it's just right around here. That's
No,
supposed to
sorry,
be
sorry.
like the
The previous
the
monthly,
previous monthly, okay.
and the current, yeah, and the current quarterly.
Let me see. I don't have those marked up on my chart. Actually, you can share your screen real quick, like go over like your point of view if you want.
Right, 1 second.
Yeah, I'll
I've got
just
like
share
a
your screen real quick.
charts kind of. Let me just delete.
Yeah, my chart's kind of got like too much going on as well.
Wait 1 second. I don't really use Zoom, so I'm just trying to get rid of the pencil thingy jig. Right, there you go.
If you have any questions in the chat so far, personally, I was expecting lower low below 80K as TP4 short breaking well. That's like what everybody was expecting. Like whenever like there's sort of actual trend reversal, it's just so much PTSD and trauma in people from like fading the trend that like went on for like 2 months that they're like, okay, this is not gonna reverse anymore. I'm gonna continue shorting, but now that it's in like proper discount and proper POIs where you want to be longing, you're pretty much just cooking yourself up. This is like something I talked about in the last stream as well. It's just like a very repetitive occurrence that people tend to fumble like such easy trades and bias just because they have continued to take so many L's that they believe that it's likely going to be the same scenario again. But I mean, price is fractal, but if taken with context, like that's where the magic happens. I think a lot of people miss out on that, and that's why they lose a lot of money. Waffle, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. So like the thing with high time frame bias was that like we had the previous yearly value area high here, right? And we
Yeah,
had the 8 week value. You could
let me just share your screen real quick.
uh,
There we go.
so you got your 8 week value here, and then you have the previous yearly value area high here, right?
Yeah,
And the main idea is in big uptrends, you should break out the yearly and you should just hold above it, right?
yeah,
At the minute, you can see how like we accepted into the yearly, we dumped, right? And now
yeah,
we ended up like this is like last week, we ended up rejecting that yearly value area low, right?
yeah.
Made a high low here. So I'm kind of thinking that if we end up breaking back up here, we should end up like, starting to creep higher again, right? And then I think naturally the target here would be like your quarterly values, etc., and your and the previous broken lows, right? And I think the key thing here would be if I just mark out the quarterly, because right now we have like a fresh monthly band as well. 1 second. So you just mark that out as your quarterly.
Totally. Yeah,
So like something that you always kind of like see with AMT as a general rule is that when you break into value, you should have like time and space inside as like your acceptance, right? But like you can see, like we kind of just like dumped it out down,
right.
made a high low, right? At
Yeah,
the minute, if we end up like grinding here, forming new value, or just having some sort of like not dumping immediately from that fair value gap, right? We
yeah.
should just end up like accepting higher. As we accept higher, we should end up taking out these highs into that monthly view app, right? And I think because of how big that range is, that monthly view app's going to be heavy resistant. So it's like it's not going to be like a
But
fresh, quick move. And you can already see how we rejected quarterly. So I
right.
think we'll end up going range bound above her.
Yeah, and I have a question for
Uh,
you. Like, what sort of like acceptance or reclaim back for you? Because like, let's just take a look at this like VWAP low right here. Would it be like if it
yeah.
like, yeah, just keep the screen right there. So like if price
Yeah.
like continuously just goes up in like one candle and immediately gets a rejection, is that something that you would not consider to be sort of a reclaim? Or would you like for PA to develop around like the value area low of this VWAP, and then that would be considered like proper reclaim for you?
For me, with reclaims, it's two things, right? It's either heavy volume or like, time. So if we end up, um, the high volume move would be pumping immediately up to 90K, right? And
Yeah.
then sort of flushing a little bit and kind of inverting the single print here, right? And then going higher like
Yeah.
that, right? And then the second kind of scenario would be literally just more range, and then eventually break out. So like some sort of compression. I think a good example was like the compression here, where we had like a bullish compression here at I think this was previous weekly value area high or something. Um,
Right.
like
Let me
if I
tell you.
just get the
Oh, by the way,
yeah. So
for
here,
the long guys, like the long that I'm in, I'm just holding this at the moment. No sort of like partials at the moment, just letting it ride and develop. If I see sort of like a break in momentum on the lower time frame real quick, I will probably like take TP, but right now this is supposed to be like TP1 and just below monthly open, I'll just try to like take it out. Okay, go back.
So there's like compression here, right? So here, for example, we saw minimal retracement. So in the initial entry into the weekly value here, you see how we didn't have a retest of the value area low there, right? Instead, we had a low that formed, that key low there, right? And we barely retraced that. Like we barely swept into it and we moved higher, right? I'd expect something similar where if like we do have like a time-based reclaim, um, we shouldn't really like let's say we hit the weekly or like the monthly levels here, we shouldn't just dip all the way back down again. Like we should just pump out, spend some time here, minimal flushes, and then pump out. That's the time-based scenario.
Right,
And
that's
like yeah, like I said, the volume version would just be like a direct squeeze, a simple flush, and then like yeah. But that's like this is easy to spot.
got it. Are
Um,
you like positioned on this like, or is it you're just waiting for the reclaim?
At the minute, I'm not like in any sort of longs or anything, but I did pick up some Ethereum and Solana buys. So with Ethereum, I was slightly underwater for a little bit. I ended up buying the initial like retest here
Yeah.
of the range here. So you see the that range POC here, right?
Yeah.
We ended up getting like a retest there. I ended up like buying some at like 28, 20. I bought a little bit more on like that low volume node here, but then at the minute, it's like I'm in profit with spot. I think with Solana, I had half bids. This was kind of frustrating though because with Solana, I was kind of expecting either a, a sweep of that low or a move down into my charts with a
Yeah,
mess. But
yeah,
it's,
I took a long on Solana just yesterday, and I was the only two scenarios I had in mind was either we just like pretty much like front run everybody, hold this low right here, as I saw some delta like kick into the lows right here, and I did like
yeah,
get into a very nice position for the long, but I did like got my TPs real quick. The idea was like either we like front everybody else on the second higher low, and then just send it all the way back up to the FVG and the highs, sweep it up, or we just like pretty much like go a bit lower but like go high. I don't think Solana is like a bad like outlook on the higher time frame. I recommend like to like get on to any sort of like momentum driven like bullish momentum driven action that goes on Solana, in my opinion.
yeah. I think high time frame as well. Like it's Solana. It does look really good because we've had like what like a year and a half consolidation here.
Yeah,
You've got
that's
simply put, you've got like your range like that. And if you store your value area here, you've got, I mean, this is just clean. Like you've been idiot not to buy in like the
yeah,
discount region.
yeah.
Because like at the minute we already tagged the value area low. Let me check this. You already tagged the value area low here. You've already swept the lows. I think like the one kind of scenario I was kind of looking for, which is why I only bidded half, with like half like a half allocation was there's this untested breaker here right,
Okay.
below all these lows.
Yeah.
So, and again, like this low here, I mean, sure, there's some excess, but it's not as high volume as I'd want to see. I'd usually want to see like, 3 cent deviations worth
Right.
of like,
How do you
excess. But
like?
it's like,
Would you consider yourself to be like an intraday trader or more of a swing trader?
it's a mixture. It's like usually intraday. Because like my port is like kind of split between, long term, mid term, and then obviously my trades, right? But most of my trades are, if I'm doing a pub trade, it's always intraday. Um,
Right.
I don't do like long term futures or anything like that. But yeah, I think like in terms of a long term trade here, either the SFP here was good, but alternatively, like if it ends up, sweeping down and then going higher, that's like the
Right.
ideal scenario. But like again,
Yeah.
there's no easy entries.
Yeah. 100%.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of like lower time frame, like this is kind of the same thing as like Bitcoin, right? Where you've got like your kind of range here.
Yeah. Cause
So
like as an intraday trader, you also have to look for like the proper entries. Like right here, I got into a long right here, but the idea that as a swing trader, there was like a lot of entries that could have been filled much lower. I didn't like fully fill on my position as well. It was like a partial
yeah,
position. Then the TPs was a bit too early because I was like it may reject, and then like it like fills the lower bids and then gets back up because that's supposed to be like the ideal scenario. Take out like pretty much
yeah,
everybody else and then run it back up. But like yeah, that's sort of the dilemma I guess you just like have to face through as a guy that's like trying to swing trade as well as an intraday trader, that you wanna like get the better entries, but you also have to know there's quite a lot of patience and scam that has to go on before it actually gets to the TP
yeah.
that you're looking for.
I think something else to note here, right, is you've got like your previous. I think this is like this view app is slightly off because it's not aggregated, but as like a rough kind of like estimation, right? Let's say that's your previous monthly bracket, right?
Um,
And then you got your weekly here. The thing of this, right, is the way I'd kind of interpret that is like this is all empty space, right? So you see how we've broken out here. You shouldn't really be looking for shorts. You should just be like longing
yeah.
all the way towards the 134 area, right? There's no like sort of like, it's empty space, and empty space gets filled quickly. But the thing here is that if we end up tagging the monthly and the previous weekly here, right? And then we end up, this is like a strong SFP area, right? Because you've got two overlapping levels. If that ends up SFP, you've got this single print here. I mean, if you were to look at like that on a TPO, it'd be a pretty big single print, right?
Yeah.
If you were to look at this would front run the current weekly value area high, and then here would be like a good long, and I think that would be like the case of like, yeah, we've finished doing business on the lows. But then if we end up, getting like a harsh rejection where we just create like another lower high there, then I'd say this is like the case, like the 117, 118 area here, right? But it's like again, if we end up flipping the monthly bracket here, I think this is where Solana is going to start running off very quickly because you've got like let me just adjust this real quick because you've got like an empty bracket here and you only have like pretty aside from that you don't really have any good levels to like reject from. So it's like if this ends up reclaiming and then you get like lower high, this
Yeah.
should just run up pretty quickly,
Yeah.
probably all the way up to about like, yeah, like the 150 region, and then above 150 you've got like 160, and that's mainly because you've got this kind of range that's formed. So you get like a nice kind of like mean reversion here and then continuation, blah blah blah, right? Play value to value, level to level.
Yeah. People are asking in the chat, what's the plan for BDC? Let's just go and take a real quick look at BDC. I think we shared just like a few
Uh,
minutes ago, but I guess that's what we were looking for. We were just looking for like an ideal formation of like some price right around here. And that would just like send it up all the way around this. That will take out all the highs. Pretty much like retrace the bar that went on and liquidated quite a lot of people again, which was not really expected after a lot of liquidation. But that's what we are like looking at so far. And I am long here, and I believe like we should just like rotate all the way just below like the monthly open, and like the way we somewhat slow grind into the monthly open is probably a trade that I'll take, maybe add on to longs. But if you start to reject and hold highs and just don't break higher, I think I'll just close my longs and then look for lower. That would be something that I'd be looking to do, like something like this. Yeah. 5 minutes till NYSE open, yes, sir.
I think
How do you trade
TPOs.
like opens waffle? Like, is that something that's like, do you trade like session TPOs or session
So
profiles or VWAPs at all?
I do look at sessions, right? But the main thing for sessions is just finding like volume pivots, like
Yeah,
volume nodes between
yeah,
sessions, right? That's the main utility with that. But with TPO, I kind of just use that to look for POIs and like look at like potential rotations, right?
yeah,
It's like right now, something I'm looking at is how much volume we're building here at the highs. Usually when you do build volume like on the highs, right, like it can either be like a high volume move that keeps going higher, right?
yeah,
But usually if you do sustain that kind of like huge volume cluster at the top as you're going up, right? Usually that's like a long trap that's going to set up. But that's something that like I'm just watching out for, because usually with these moves where you trap people longs, right? Let me just like that, for example, there, right? Like on that up move here, you trapped people, and then on the next daily candle, you end up like dumping pretty harshly there. I think it's like a
yeah,
1K drop or something. But that's something that I do kind of watch out for. At the minute though, like with this, all I can see is like we've just got like a single print here into
yeah.
that 4 day, 3 day value here, about like 90K, which lines up with your TP. But yeah, I mean, for this, there's not much more to say though. At the minute, like I mean, it's a trending day. We're going back into
Yeah,
resistance,
TPO
and the
looks like,
idea here.
yeah, TPO looks like such a cheat code for the people that understand TPO. It's like you're looking at like literal cheats, where like rotations would happen and where they will like end off, and then you can just like pretty much like take advantage of that. You have to like spend some time learning these things, but I feel like if you do understand this is like a much better outlook. If you just take a look at TPO and never price action, I think some of us like would be much better traders. That's how like good TPO is into like trading. It's just the execution that you would probably need to have some better like handlement with, and like there's quite a lot to like explore in TPO. There's like rotations, there's like POCs, there's like nodes of volumes, and there's like single prints. Then there's
Yeah,
like for highs, for lows. It's just so important that a lot of people I think are still sleeping on TPO, and that's good. Like I
I
don't
think
need like everybody learning pretty much everything else.
I think something interesting though is like how we played level to level here, and it's something that we're gonna have to watch out for, right? So like, let's say we could have like your 3 day range right here, and you've got 2 day range here, right?
Yeah.
Because the value areas are overlapping. Let me just. I think X has been bugging lately. I don't think it wants to work. But basically, the idea here was that you had like your 3 day value here, right? And your two
Yeah.
day. But like when you extend this out, right? You see how when we dumped from this, right? We ended up we pumped into that high volume node here, from that pump candle, right? Then we ended up like falling back into the. We did a mean reversion here back, and you can see like we spent multiple 30-minute candles here, right? And these are poor lows that formed. So effectively, like if one poor lows came back up, as soon as it touched the single print, it dumped down again, right?
Yeah.
But just look at how it dumped, right? We dumped into that 3 day value area low, came back up again, retested the initial poor low, and then continued going lower, right? And then we did a mean reversion of that POC here from the 2 day value, right? And then after it came back up. So like you said, with the 90K, it is like a good retest of that value area low from this previous range, right? And if we do end up, rejecting from here, I would be surprised to see these lows getting taken all the way down to like 85, 86K. I think the only thing stopping that would be like it holding these volume nodes that are
Yeah,
forming,
I mean, I
where
mean,
we
I
just
don't.
end up
Yeah, I
finding
don't. I don't
support.
mind compression. I think that would be a better, sort of a scenario where we just like come to these lows, reject from like the level that you marked, come to these lows, and someone form a better low than the current low, and then just like rotate all the way back up to like new highs, 95, 94, all the way up to the TOPCs that you have right above.
Yeah, because literally above this level here, right? There's nothing really. I think
Yeah,
worst case scenario we might tag 94K here.
yeah,
It's like a sweep of these equal highs, hit 94K, and then if it ends up finding support, so like let's say we tap 94K and then we get like a little bit of a flush and it holds, this should just pump up like heavily up to 95K without any sort of like resistance. But I think like as long as we're in here, we're just going to we're going to continue to be range bound.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the
Which
main thing here would just be not doing anything stupid and just trying to find
Yeah, as long as
good entries.
as long as you don't like long into a premium and you don't short into a discount, I think you would be doing pretty fine overall in this range. We may like continue this range based off of the rejection we may get here, for maybe weeks and weeks. But as long as you just don't meddle in the like middle and don't like like long the highs or like short the lows of the range, you would be doing like pretty fine. I guess that's the problem that like literally everybody has that has a losing streak. They're trying to be like different. They're trying to be like the better out of like everybody else, and they're probably like short the lows in anticipation of a breakdown for like much lower, and they probably long the highs in anticipation of a breakout for much higher, and that's where they keep getting fucked, and eventually it comes to a point where there's actual breakout, they're not like willing to risk anymore because they're like they don't even have the risk for it anymore. That's very common. That's like the only reason I say that again and again, because even after this call, even after like more few calls, like probably these guys would like not understand. You have to like put emphasis on like trying not to fade the trend itself and trying not to be the right person. You need you're here to like make money, in my opinion. That's what like people need
Yeah,
to be putting
yeah,
emphasis on.
yeah. I think some of these altcoins are looking kind of interesting, like Hyperliquid. I got front run on Hyperliquid. This is kind of annoying. You can see my screen, right?
Yeah, I can.
I think with Hyperliquid, you had your wick fill, right? Just mark out the range real quick. So let's say this is your range, this is your deviation, and this is the wick fill, right? Usually with these wick fills, you tend to fill like half of them, right? Like a halfway fill. You can exactly front run it a little bit, right?
Yeah,
I think as soon as it rejected value here, right? Let me just mark it out. So as soon as like we came down, filled the wick, we ended up like forming all these like I think this was like probably a turtle soup, or like Quasimodo, whatever you want to call it, there that shallow sort of like sweep, right? Since we came down, I was kind of expecting a much harsher like flush like that and then higher, right?
yeah,
But at the minute, it's like if this ends up, let me just get the weekly view app real quick. So you got like a pretty nice range on the weekly view app. I think that breakup should be resistance there, right? And we've already kind of tapped it. I think if this goes back down to like 31, like or like like a lower time frame kind of high, I think we should get like a nice kind of pump into the monthly range here, right? Where we end up, just pumping straight up into that monthly view up there. And if it kind of like, ends up holding into that monthly view up, then it's like this would be like your continuation higher, like a mean reversion or like, a value area high there. But I think with Hyperliquid, that's something I am being very kind of attentive toward because again, if this ends up, like with Bitcoin, for example, if this ends up, tagging that previous range and it ends up holding within that like, overlapping value, this should just go 37, $40, which is a pretty good long right now. Um, I think I'd probably put it like I think this will probably outperform Solana maybe, but we'll find out.
okay. Let's just take a look real quick at the chat. Does anybody have any questions so far? Let me just take a look. Hmm. I don't see any questions, but if you guys do have any questions, just type them in the chat. What is your next possible short PI for BDC? What do you think about BDC? Everybody want to know about BDC. Okay, let's just go over BDC real quick. Waffle, let me share my screen real quick.
Stop sharing mine.
Yeah. Okay, what do I think about BDC? Let's just take a look at what's BDC doing real quick. And we got like as shared from like Waffle screen as well, pretty nice like tap into the POC right here, and we're just like rotating into the single prints right here, and we should just like go all the way almost to the monthly open, and based off of that rejection, like this is the long that I shared just before I started the stream. I think I shared it right here. Yeah, so
I
I'm
don't
just
think you're
over.
sharing the right screen.
Wait.
I think there you go.
Yeah, you can see my screen, right? So like right now I'm just like holding on to this long and I'm hoping that we get all the way up to this like POI that's supposed to be right here. Let me just mark out the POI real quick. The first short POI would be just like around here. If we get to reject right around here and hold certain highs, then we could most likely be in a compression zone, and we are not looking to like pump any higher just now. Let me just delete all of this stuff on my chart real quick. Right. Most likely the scenario that I'd be looking for would be that we pop them into this like range. If you draw a volume profile around this range right here, you'll get a range value area low somewhere around here. If we reject off of that value area low or these lows right here, then it's likely we are in for a sort of compressive range right here, where we take in like internal lows and internal highs, and then from those internal lows and highs, the liquidity that gets built up for like a breakout to either side would be very useful. So if we like take out the liquidity that's sitting here and form a pretty decent low right here, that would be actually a good indication for price to like break out higher eventually. I don't recommend like aping on to like proper swing trades, like unless and until you're like hoping on to a long or like around the lows, or you're hopping on to some longs when we're actually breaking the range much higher. For the higher time frame, it looks pretty decent so far. There's some levels like waffle marked as well. There's some poor highs around like 98, somewhere around this level right here. So that's where some POCs are sitting as well. This would be the bracket rejection that I would expect. First of all, the moment we like reclaim above the monthly open, and if you like somewhat reclaim this and start to slow grind here, this would be along all the way up to the like POC probably, or reclaimants of like this higher time frame range that we had like continued on for. I think I drew this range all the way from like let me actually go to the higher time frame real quick. Yeah, so this is the range that I marked so far, the one that starts from May all the way to like November. So that's quite a lot of like big range. So the moment we like somewhat reclaim above this like first level area for me, we are likely to rotate all the way back up to the value area low, most likely to the POC. Actually, there's more liquidity that's in right higher above, and if that's not the case, then it's most likely range and chop and eventually sort of form the first scenario that we talked about like a few weeks ago. That was like we reject off of here, we come into this like pivotal high, which is the swing low, which like led to the all-time high eventually a few months later, and we just like continue to chop in around this like range right here. Waffle, what do you think would be the bottom for BTC? Is that something that you have thought about so far?
I think, but I don't know. I don't like thinking in terms of the notion of bottoms, right? And I think that annotation that you just drew of BTC of it, like going to 90 and then potentially sweeping the low again. I like that a lot because you do tend to form lows like that. So like with lows, I think like if you zoom out as well, you can kind of see like with lows, you either get like a big wick that forms like October, or
Yeah.
in that like first consolidation on the left, we form that big wick. No, above that one.
Right
It's,
here.
like- it's the one like December last year. December last year.
December last year. That's
Yeah, you
right
see the
here.
big
Yeah.
wick there,
Yeah.
and then you get like the big like 20K move, right?
Yeah.
It's like with the lows, you either formed them with like a huge wick or like consolidation and a sweep, right? So I'm kind of guessing like it depends, like if we end up forming another low again, I'll buy it and I'll see what happens, play it level to level. But I don't think we've fully finished like, breaking out the range yet. I think we'll go range bound for longer than people think,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially like
How's like
especially like we dropped 40K.
yeah,
Like there's no way that we just shape it.
how's like an expectancy of like 2026? How do you think like 2026 will go like overall as a year?
I mean, we've got like rate cuts and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I think macro wise, I'm not so sure. Like, I mean, we might go down, might go up, right? But I think the main thing will be if we sweep the low, we buy it, right? If we SFP the low, we buy it. And
Yeah.
then if we break out of current levels, right, and we go back up to like, the yearly VWAP, like, back up to the previous range value area low, if we end up rejecting from that, I guess you just sell, like you just play level to level.
Yeah.
I don't have any real expectations, but I don't think like, I don't think next year is going to be like a good year for the market either. Like we finished the market cycle and whatnot. But yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that 2026 is gonna be a better year as well. Most likely we either just range for like months and months, But the better scenario would be that we range right here. What I'm expecting so far, we break down the range again, and then eventually we sort of form accumulation that sends price all the way back up like quarter three or quarter four of 2026, and all the way back up to like 110k. There's a lot of there's just a lot of waiting that's gonna go on like in 2026 in my opinion. A lot of people are just gonna like liquidate and leave as usual in that sort of like range environment, and then they're gonna come back but like everything is like popping up. That's just like usual market cycles, right? We got like a question in the chat so far. um Wait, let me see. Yo, what's your plan for ETH? I'm still at 1,900. I sold my ETH and I'm hesitant to buy back in spot. I think I posted my ETH higher time frame as well. I'm a bit scalp long from here. Let me just like go on to the higher time frame real quick. Like 2.7k was supposed to be like a pretty decent spot. We come into a nice PI. Let me just show you real quick. Probably go to a much bigger time frame real quick. What are your thoughts on ETH? Like, would you be interested in playing like spot or long waffles?
Well, I mean, I've already bought some ETH, right? I'll screen share it real quick.
Yeah,
Uh,
right. So this is the pivot for ETH for me. Like this is going to be like my first fill. That's like where I took some partial long. But as an intraday trader, I'll probably exit the trade if I don't see sort of continuation into that trend, and I'll like probably enter back again around like two and below two, all the way down. I don't think like ETH is a bad asset at all. It's sort of like it's just something that I wouldn't play with leverage. I'd rather play spot and then just like forget about it. I think like the trade that develops like either you can like just like keep your spot holdings right here. You can either take one entry here, but the better entry would be somewhere around just below 2k, all the way down to like even 700. That's something that I'm like actually looking for, and then I'll just like hold it to like 6k for a spot play. I don't really look at Ethereum as a sort of like a leverage play. I think it's more supposed to be like played as a beta to BDC. But for moving into 2026, there's quite a lot of like confusion that it may take quite a long time to get there. But like I believe it'll get there at some point. You were saying something, Waffles?
yeah, I was into ETH, right? You've got like two kind of options here, right? So like let's say where there's ETH. That's right. Yeah. I'm thinking like with ETH,
Let me
you've got two scenarios here in terms of like, your yearly and whatnot.
yeah.
And it just depends like your time horizons, right? Like if you're doing like, a long-term spot position, you obviously want to buy like, like you were saying, you've got the low here that formed. You'd want to see like, a deviation outside of like, yearly value here, right? And then, an SFP that holds this low, right? Or like, shallow sweep reclaim, right? And then you kind of like, so I think that's like what, like 2K area, 2.1, 2.2, like this region, right? But I
Yeah.
think like right now, as for now, you've had your previous range here, right? And we literally just tapped into the value area high of that range. And then we ended up like pumping out, right?
Yeah.
But if I just kind of neaten up my chart a little bit, the main thing to watch here is obviously like similar to BTC and Solana and whatnot. Like we end up dumping down into this previous range, held, pumped out, and then now you've got like your single print here, right? And if you end up, like I was saying, if you end up pumping into the single print, make a high low, and like break out, right? This should end up running up to the yearly view up and the quarterly value here, right? At about like 3.2, 3.1, go range bound, right? And I think this is like where you'd want to sell some spot if you did buy some recently. And then if you end up making another high low, or like, if you literally just go range around here again and you pump out, I think 3.5 is the eventual target. Um, but like overall, like with ETH, I think if you have bought here, you'd want to see it going up to about 3.2 at least. And then I think like if it ends up rejecting this area here, we should just sweep these lows. And I think even right now, like if ETH ends up rejecting this, right? So like, let's say we get like a harsh rejection here. I might actually short if it does end up getting a rejection here. I'll probably aim for a sweep of these lows here and maybe a sweep of this low. I'm not so sure yet, but I'll see. But yeah, I think with ETH, like I was saying, high time frame, you want to either see a rejection of that low or a sweep of that low into like a deeper fill that for value, right?
Right. We got a nice question. Like, what do you think of the possible scenario that sees this low as the beginning of a redistribution before a final bearish acceleration before the accumulative range of the bear market? I think that it's probably like a redistribution. I would like to believe that we have bottomed out so far so early. It's likely that we continue the range, put in a local low, pump a bit higher, then like eventually that pump would be considered as deviation, and then we like sort of like go back much lower for an accumulative range. I think that should be something that I'm looking for. What are your thoughts about it?
I don't know. I think that's a lot. It's a lot of thinking, right? I'd say like it's too much thinking. Um, it's just a case of like like here for example, right? When we end up dumping here, we dumped it into like this range here, and I'm pretty sure we had like other ranges, right? And then we end up moving up to the yearly value area high there, and then once you kind of accept like that, we end up dumping, right? And then you can see the same thing here. Like if I was to draw a range here, right? Let me put that in as well. I guess this doesn't even reach the value. It just ends up like tagging that low there and dumping. I don't know. For me, it's like yearly view up, and then if you reject from yearly view up, yearly value area low. There's not much more for me to think about, to be honest. But in terms of like bear markets, I'm not macro expert, but bear markets don't usually set. Yeah, you don't get a bear market as the Fed is starting to like do quantitative easing.
Yeah.
So it's like if we are getting interest rate cuts, I don't think we'll get a bear market fully just yet. It might just kick the can down the road.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There's another Yoshini. How do you spot weakness in trend so you cut off your longs without giving off profits back or being back to like break even? How do I like spot weakness? Let's just take this like current example. Let me share my screen waffle for you real quick. Okay, like how do I spot weakness? Usually I take a look at order flow as well, but just taking a look at the current trade that I have and deleting whatever's on my chart real quick. Go to the lower time frame most of the time to see like what's actually going on onto the lower time frame, how like price is developing based off of like orders that are actually formulating the structure. And looking at this, like okay, just taking into context overall as well. Price overall comes into like 4 hour discount. We for sort of form a Quasimodo as well. We get a break structure. There's a low. We get like a low hold around here. A lot of like delta trapped into these lows. And after that trap, we have a lot of like higher low structure right around here. That's just continuation of that specific trend. Then this sort of structure is very attractive to me. What this speaks is like there's a lot of T vapping and there's a lot of like continuous bids that are hitting the current market as well. And what this sort of like speaks is that there's bearish sellers and momentum, but all of that momentum is just getting faded out. So like if the momentum was bearish, the low should have broken, it should have like moved down a bit. But if that sort of like price is not visible, that it's not happening, it's likely that every sort of like bearish momentum that kicks in just gets faded away real quick, and that sort of like fading in that momentum is like very easy to recognize, and then you just like an ape on it. If you take a look at my current entry for the long, it's like I have my entry around here. I just like aped into the long, and the reason for my TP being so high without any partial was because we were in this like big ass void where usually we just like rotate within these values. And the reason I didn't like TP real quick and I'm just like holding the long, even though I could have like taken profit maybe on the first rejection here. Usually I seem to let the trade develop, and the way it develops is based off of like microstructure and overall structure as well, because structure itself represents orders, and represents is what like orders is what represents how the market is moving like currently. And you can see that like on the lower time frame, if you go even much lower, I think like people should understand the importance of like 15-second or like the tick charge or overflow charge. If the lowest that you have ever explored is the 1 minute chart, I highly recommend that either you move to the 50-second charts, you move to the like the T-ref or like tick charts to just understand what goes on when like orders are actually hitting the market, and you were able to like understand the importance of like how just even one BDC or like 10 million BDC order that like gets struck into the print bar statistics is like so vital to price and how that like provides continuation to price. And just taking a look at price action alone here, there is like structure that develops here as well, higher lows and higher lows. And that just makes me hold my longs much higher, because when you like ape into a trade, let's just say this was my trade and my TP was all the way here. So I was going for like a 5-hour trade. Initially my trade was like 5 hour, but based off of just one rejection, if I just like close my half of my trade at 1.4 hour, and if it still went to my TP, now I'm not getting a 5-hour trade. I'm barely even getting like a 1.5-hour trade, because you have to understand like like I would have taken so much of my position out at like 1.4 hour based off of just like the first rejection, and the rejection is usually like visible as well. It's just a bunch of candles based off of like price action. That's why you have to like understand the importance of like these charts and these anomalies, so you're able to like recognize strength and weakness in the chart. This is very helpful, by the way. Every single trade is like helpful. Like right here, this is the trade that I took on Solana and share just last night, and this was based off of like some order flow component as well, but it was mostly based off of like price action. And then you see there's like continuation of trends, and there's like continuous TVAPs that keep hitting the market, and then you just like hold your trade all the way in such scenarios. Waffle, I have a question for you. Yo, Waffle, how do you set stop loss, manage a trade that takes very long time to develop, especially monthly, quarterly, and levels? Like, how do you like set your stops? How does your risk management go?
Okay, so in terms of just managing stop losses, I'm actually not actually, I never actually particularly asked myself too much about that. The way that I always kind of go for like, tighter invalidation trades, right? Where like, your invalidation's clear. So it's like if you're going for like quarterly rejections, so like let's say the rejection that we had on Friday, right? If I was to short that, it would be like we have like a pre-existing high at like I think it was 93.8, right? Uh,
Yeah,
let look at the chart real quick. You just
yeah.
go
Let me
to the
just.
4 hour chart on
I'll go to my
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Okay. Right here. There we
Because I've
go.
always kind of just gone by the whole notion of like, um, nothing changes regarding like your stop loss placement, right? It's just that mentally it's harder to, keep or like hold a trade that's like, a higher time frame bias, right? Because like there's so much stuff that happens on the low time frame, but yeah, okay. So if you zoom in a little bit on the 4 hour,
Or some in onto the lows right here. Go.
yeah. So it's like I think we had like quarterly value around about here, right? Like somewhere around here we had quarterly value.
Yeah.
But the main thing here, right, is this was like I'd say this was like, the first initial high. Actually, no, wait, sorry, no, I bet. Let me get rid of that. Okay, so let's say this is your initial high. That sets the tone for the range, right? Something that I would do was I'm not sure if I would have entered here, right? I could have entered here, but it's like I personally wouldn't have entered there, right? I would have entered like on the second kind of like, this kind of like, half Batman move, right? Where you get like your initial high volume move,
Yeah.
and then you get like your kind of like, your low volume drive into that like, move, and then you get that rejection, right? I would have just shorted there and put my stop loss there, right? Because it's like
Right.
you formed a nice high volume pivot there. And based on the high volume pivot, right, this should hold. And if it doesn't hold, your invalidation is like, if we break that high, we should just pump out. So it's like I've said a lot, but basically, um, I like using high volume pivots, right, as like my invalidation point. Because it's like once you start breaking these pivots, there's no real sort of like, resistance above, right? So it's like once you break above this, you should not be you should not be like fading the move up until you sweep these highs. So it's just about like picking good invalidations. I'll screen share something real quick because this was a trade that I took back at the all-time high, right?
Yeah.
And I think with this, like it was like a high time frame move, but at the same time, it was just about like good trade management, right? So I'll just share my screen real quick.
Okay.
Um, because like the issue isn't stop loss placement, it's just being able to maintain like the bias that you hold, right? So like back at all-time high, I was kind of looking at like, how Bitcoin was moving within like, this value here. And again, it gets repetitive, but it's this is what systems are, like if you have a good system, you shouldn't really change it, right? So the main thing here that I was looking at was you had a big weekly gap here, right? Like sorry, a big weekly empty profile. So it's like if we end up accepting into this weekly profile, we should just end up like, dumping pretty heavily, right? So originally what happened was like when we got the all-time high, we had like a bad sweep here, right? And
Yeah.
usually with bad sweeps, you're like, this is like, a bad rejection because if you go into price discovery, you should just continue going higher. But if you do a shallow sweep, they should dump, right? On the lower time frame here, I think we had like let me go all the way back. 1 second. This was like October 9. Okay. So like let's say when price like does that all-time high sweep, we end up getting like this high volume rejection, right? Where we form like poor highs. So like again, like the auction here is done. We end up doing a high volume dump. Once we do that dump, I was looking at either shorting the previous weekly value area high here or the weekly view up here, right?
Yeah.
I ended up short the weekly view up here, and my view here was that again, here you had like basically relative equal highs, right? So like you don't really want to put your stop there because it's a good liquidity magnet, right? But since we formed like this was like the starting point of that range there, right? So I was like, yo, if we break through this point, we're gonna go higher. So like I can literally just put my stop here and then put my entry here, my stop there, and then I'll aim to like move down. And then if we break this, like I'll extend my target low because like below that, I think it was the monthly, right? And the monthly was somewhere around at like 112, which is where I got out just before like the big wick, right? So like long story short, the thing I'd say is like if you're gonna end up putting your stop losses or like your invalidations, right? You want to have your invalidations at like key volume pivots and key highs of moves because then otherwise it's like it's not a real invalidation because invalidation means once price hits a certain level, your trade is completely invalid, right?
Yeah.
It should just be like like let's say you put your stop loss there and then like if price tags it and then it keeps tagging it and it keeps tagging dumps, right? That's not proper invalidation. Your invalidation should be like if price hits here, either it ends up pumping heavily or it just like grinds and then your setup becomes invalid. This shouldn't happen. But yeah.
Got it. We have another question. We do have another question, but let's just take a look at what BTC's doing so far. Doing pretty well, pretty fine. I'm pretty happy on the long that I took. We have some more questions in the chat actually. View on weekend validations of the right people just hold their losers. Yeah, I used to be like holding losers back in the day where I was like, okay, if this PUI didn't work, like maybe the one below works, but that just never goes on. Waffle, is there a trade that you would be looking to take at the moment or very soon? Would it be a long on BTC or a short?
Uh, a short right now.
A short right
Right
now?
now, right now, we could go, yeah.
Got it. So I should like take TPs real quick or something. I was hoping like it goes just a bit higher. And by the way, do you look for any sort of rejections or sort of like structured form before you like take a short, or the first move is like the first move to the POI is something that you just like ape on, like because to me
Uh,
like entry and execution is like there's multiple ways to do it. Either you just like ape on when it comes to your POI, either you just like wait for an SFP when it comes to a POI, or you could wait for a break structure. Or the thing that I personally do is when like there's actual follow up on that entire structure is when I enter.
um, I'd say for me, it's
Wait,
two things, right?
yeah,
One,
let me share my screen so you can see what I'm
yeah,
going. Yeah, right.
yeah. You can open up like footprints as well on
Yeah,
EXO,
yeah, yeah.
because I do use EXO for like for a lot of execution, right? And it's
Yeah.
like usually I'll define what drives a move. So let's say if a move is driven by like like for example right now this current move, I'm watching how for example delta is declining as we're going up right now, right into the weekly view app,
Yeah,
and then on top of that, shorts have kind of been getting squeezed the entire time, right? And
right.
I was starting to see like longs are starting to taper off.
Yeah.
So like, at current price levels, into the weekly view app, if we do start seeing like, an SFP, like let's say we let me just check
Wait,
the
just a second. My TP is about to hit. Let me just like move this a bit higher real quick. Okay, go on.
uh, I mean like right now, right? I'm just looking at the footprint and it's like we're gonna sweep of that initial drive we made into the
Yeah,
view app.
by the way, guys, like for those that are in the long, I have done my TP one here. Okay, right. Oh, that's like that's fucking decent. I that just like got in.
Yeah. So if you look at like that kind of like formation, right? With the highs, right? Like we've got like a lot of buyers that are trapped at the top there.
Yeah,
If we start like, seeing on the next few candles, there's no like, follow-up where we just start seeing like empty candles or like, no bids in the next like few prints, right? Then I'd be like, yeah, we just trapped a bunch of people inside the weekly view app, right?
yeah,
We should just reverse the move. And I think like the main area I'd look for reversal here would be there's a bunch of like imbalances at like the daily value area high at like 87.8. And if we put in a
yeah.
higher low there, then it's like we should just go to 90K.
What do you
But
think about like the imbalances you use like time to time reference as a reference for like footprint entries?
so imbalances, I kind of see imbalances like, just like, inefficiencies in the auction, right? So if market is bullish, it shouldn't repair those inefficiencies quickly. So like right now with price, right, I think we'll end up front running 90K, right?
Yeah,
When filling the imbalances that we're forming right now, right? Like lower 89,
yeah,
then we end up, SFPing the current high, and then I think we just end up dumping down to 87. But yeah, with the imbalances, it's just like a I use it as kind of like a measuring stick where if you fill the imbalances immediately, then like there's something wrong with the current move, I'd say.
yeah.
But you?
I usually look for like a fade. You like every sort of entry would mine. Like even though I like to enter when there's like proper confirmation, but even on the confirmation there is usually a fade that's just sitting there, because like fade is just like people like entering against the trend like retard, sorry, with the trend like retards. Like let's just say we are going up right here and there's quite a lot of like longs that just like aped up right here. That was a pretty nice short. If you have like, if you're good on execution, you can just like take that for, but this didn't really continue on because that's not a POI that I was looking for at all. But like for me, I used to take a lot of fades, by the way, like back in the day, if you remember, prior to FTX and the liquidations of all these firms, uh, fading and like buy bit like fades we used to work so well back in the day, but where like everybody was taking them like pretty much all day long. But ever since like FTX and like all those funds like got liquidated, I think like the overall structure of prices changed and a lot of the better setup sort of shifted to like proper continuation. So that's why I usually these days wait for that sort of like fade to happen, but I don't really position myself on that fade. I usually position myself on that confirmation that okay, that fade is holding, and that what that would look like for TREV or RY as well would be I see like quite some decent volume that like gets struck right up here to be faded, and there's like continuation, it comes back up in that level, and there's like another confirmation, okay, that's not breaking much higher than that level, right? That's something that I usually look for when I'm trying to like get into a position, because I just don't find myself profitable in like fading trends. I don't think like that's my edge. That used to be my edge, but like I think like the market overall has like matured very much ever since like those sort of events happened to our current pair, and I feel like it's just better to not like lose your money fading. And it's just easier to actually like trade with the trend than against the trend, right? I think that's something that like a lot of people would agree. Yeah, for the people that don't understand what's going on, so the numbers, so this is like one candle, and the numbers on the left are supposed to be like sells, and numbers on the right are supposed to be like buys. And if it's like blue, then that means there's more buys. If it's like red, that means there's been more sells. That's basically what's going on in footprints. There's a lot more to explore on footprints. The reason why I don't like endorse footprints just now is because a lot of people would just like get confused if they don't have their basic fundamentals of order or like price action and AMT in my opinion. And right values by yes sir. Well, that was a pretty good like New York session actually. Usually like the streams that I do is just like fucking chops like crazy and nothing happens. But I'm pretty happy like we got to get a nice long. I think we started the stream around here and now we're all the way up here. That's a pretty nice long. Yeah. Could you take a look at Fartcoin, please? Fartcoin, dude. I have not taken a look at Fartcoin in a very long time. I have Z open. Let's just take a look at Fartcoin real quick. Waffle, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I kind of,
You've been traveling for some time, right? How's like life
I mean,
and how's like life
I've
and
been
like
back.
managing trading while traveling going?
I mean, I've been back now for a couple months, but it's like it was fun because it's like you're not too invested in the lower time frame, so you kind of
Yeah.
block out a lot of noise
Do
naturally.
you think
I
like
think
yeah, do
you
you think like
oh,
you are a better trader when you're traveling or when you're locked in on the screen? Because for me, like for a person like me that's like pretty much locked in on the screen all the time, I think like traveling is sort of a distraction for me. Anything I do outside the screen is sort of a distraction for me because I'm like missing opportunities like every single waking moment that I'm not spending on the charts. And when I come back to the charts, I have this like FOMO. Sometimes I have this urgency to ape and trade, which I don't do. But like I feel like I could perform much better if I'm just sitting on the screen. But did you find like traveling to have like have had some sort of like change on your strategy? Because when I started traveling, I think I somewhat became a swing trader at some point. That was probably the first time in my life I started trading like 15 or 30 minute charts. But that like went on for only the time I was traveling, honestly.
I'd say like I mean, yeah, obviously like you're on a higher time frame more like I was trading more like the 4 hour and whatnot, and I was mainly doing like spot like spot swings or like high time frame shorts, right? But it's like I think the main thing that like you do benefit from it is the time off charts, right? And you get the time to like rest your nervous system. You get like a nice reset because as soon as I came back onto charts, right, I was getting like I had like a record back-to-back month as well. So it's like I think the main thing like just staying away from the charts is like you get that rest and you
Yeah,
get to recuperate your mind as well. I think that's
true.
the main benefit.
Yeah. Yeah, Medic said just wait for wife and kids at home. You won't mention traveling as a problem anymore, okay? Like it's to me it's like for people that are trying like in their first few years of trading, I think it's much better to spend your time on the screen than spend time touching grass. You need to like learn more and then just like have a sort of like adaptable strategy in the market. Because I feel like you cannot like have a life outside the markets if you're trying to lock in. Locking means to just like devote pretty much every single waking moment of yours on your craft, and that's like huge devotion. That's something in Silico says as well. Like unless it's like few lucky lottery tickets, trading is like actually very hard work, very hard work. There's a lot of devotion and dedication that you need to put into something like trading. Lucy said, Chini, can you take a look at CUHYM, Stonks Not Coin? What even is that? CUHYM. What Chime Financial? Why are you trading Chime, Lucy? Turbo USDT. Turbo. Fartcoin looks decent. I don't think it looks bad. It's just this specific high on the higher time frame. You can expect a lower high before it goes up to the POI. For Turbo, Chime is good. You think? Looks structure wise, it looks pretty decent. I don't think like Chime looks bad. Structure wise, it's something that I would probably take a trade on actually. Yeah. Turbo, we could take a real quick at Turbo. Not trading Turbo. There's quite a lot of scammy moves going on. I don't like to trade coins that are like in a continuous downtrend. I really hate this structure. I like it when price starts to like slow down a bit, and then eventually like lets buyers breathe, and I like to trade it. I like to actually trade it when there's like actual momentum kicking into the market. Because those are the easiest of trades. Those are like the fastest of trades. This here, you're losing money. This here, you're waiting a lot. This here, where you're making money, right? So you need to understand these three phases of accumulation. Losing shekel said, where is the next long entry she need? I missed the move. Okay. Next long entry. Honestly, if it starts to like grind into here, I would probably look for a long entry somewhere here with a stop loss base of like whatever the higher low is supposed to be at the time, and probably aim for like a prior high. Otherwise, the other entry that I'd be looking for would be like a sweep, which Waffle and I was talking about during the start, would be a sweep of these lows that we come around here, and then we sort of form a lower high, and then we go up. So these are the only two long entries that I'm looking for now. Uh, you see,
I shorted Bitcoin here.
right. You see this as a legit breakdown or another liquidity hunt. I believe this is just a rotation. I don't think this is a liquidity hunt as well. This is sort of a rotation. We get rejection here, and we're gonna rotate all the way down to like 85, 600 here, most likely, because this is like the start of the stream. I told you like the move that happened here. It's happening in like the sort of void price section. And whenever it comes into that single print and void, it just like boom, it just rotates all the way back up, straight up. No sort of rejection or even like a slow grind structure. It just straight goes up. This is exactly what like went on right here, right? And if you get even the minus rejections, we're gonna do pretty much the same, and then we're gonna just like pop all the way back down. That's basically how like void works. There's basically, it's like the reason we call it void is because like there's nobody that's willing to actually um keep the price balanced, so it just like stays in this imbalance where it rotates from this point to this point. And this is probably the easiest of setups, which I like a lot. There's a lot of crime involved in it, that's why it's even better, you know. And I think like Waffle shorted this, and the moment like it's some sort of like rejection over here, it's like I'll close it long right here, and it looks like it's stalling a bit. The way I would look for like stalling on it would be like if it starts, so you see this like lower high right here. Actually, let me see if I have my TP. Damn, I did like pretty decent on this song. Let me like, okay, so the sort of structure that I'd be looking for. So I see this to be like higher lows, and we have come into my POI. We get a rejection over here, and we break probably this low. And the moment we get like a lower high, that's pretty much it. That's done for price, and it's gonna rotate all the way back down and sweep off these lows. That's something that I'd be looking to trade actually. So either a short on like a high hold, or a long on like sweep, or a long on a breakout. Like that's the sort of positioning that I'm looking for on BTC at the moment. I hope you agree, Waffles. Waffle is probably short, and yeah, that's something that I've been looking for. So let me just take a real quick look at the chart. These voids where prices melts are the best opportunity, 100%. You think
Oh,
96.8 is possible? 96.8
I think I
versus
get stop on this.
pretty strong so far, but we'll
Yeah.
just let it develop. 96.8 so far. Somebody said you think 96.8 so far is possible from this like daily FEG probably here. I'm not sure. Um, this is the rejection pivot that me and Waffles has marked right around here. Yeah. Yep. There we go. And I think this is possible. And I was talking about like if we flip the monthly open, the reason why that would be so important, because like what day is it today? It's like 2nd of December, and in just the start of the month, we would have so much volume just trapped below monthly open. And the moment we start grinding up monthly open, we're just gonna boom, like we're gonna go to this POI, and knowing that there will be so much volume just stuck at the start, the first day of the month, it's probably gonna lead all the way back up to like better highs, right? That's how basically like fading works. Did we reject or not? I think we rejected, yeah. No, we're just gonna let it develop for a bit. I'm gonna take some more TPs from my long, and Yeah, I'm just gonna let the price develop at the moment. Pretty nice trade. I really like the trade. Straight at 4R. Any more questions? What is your stop loss for the short if you take it? If I take the short, let me just show you real quick. My my stops would actually be like what I would take the trade basically on. My stops would most likely be this like high. The reason not for like any of these other highs was because it would be better to keep the stops at this possible high, but for me, it's like if it comes to this high, it's likely going to see pretty much like everything else as well. So it should reject off of right here. And we have like monthly open here as well. We don't want like price going above monthly open if you're trying to short, right? So that's a pivotal level for us. If price develops something like this and my like entry is supposed to be like this lower high, like it does something like this. My stops are most likely going to be like this high right here. That's how I would like look at it. Um, there's some question. Shini, I've been jumping from strategy to strategy for 2 years now. Every time I see a new strategy, I start to believe in that and start learning it. I see it works fine too, then somehow I end up losing money, then I start learning another strategy. I'm stuck in this loop. At some point, I try to combine all the strategy and try and trade with it. When I look at the chart, I see lots of setups sometimes. Those setups works too. I feel confidence. I feel like I have found my final strat and then I lose it again. How to get out of this? Like Waffles, do you have any insights on this?
Oh, wait, say that. Wait, I'll read the chat again really quick.
Right. So
I was just trying.
basically there's a guy that's been jumping from strategy to strategy and he starts to believe in like new strategies every time. And now he knows so much like he's like confused into choosing what setups and feels like he's stuck in a loop. How to like get out of it? I don't know what is wrong with me. I've seen every strategy works, but somehow I'm still a loser. Can you give me a plan for the next 3 or 6 months to lock in on? Very good question.
I mean, it's not as simple as like locking in, right? Like, the thing with strategy hopping is that you're it's not that the strategy is your edge. It's more that like you are the edge. So if you are like, strategy hopping, you're not going to spend enough time, figuring out what works and what doesn't, right? Because a lot of these strategies are all the same. It's more about like, execution, and that's where the edge lies. So I'd say like start off with something basic, right? So just note down everything you know and break it down to the bare bones. So like start off with PA. Once you're comfortable with PA, I'd start saying like, add more things. Like then you start adding AMT, you start adding, volume and etc. Right? But I don't know. I'd say just start again. Like just start again. Go to the basics. Like just
100%.
start with a fresh chart.
Yeah, 100% like journaling would help a lot. Probably like something that I could recommend for you to work on would be price action, but try to understand trend more and the importance of like structure. I'll just like try to like importance of structure laid out. And then once you have like gotten a better understanding, I think the best thing you can work on is execution. And that would be to work on like forward testing. Forward testing like could be this as well. Like even though I took a trade right here, I could not have taken a trade, and I could be like, okay, I'm gonna like think of a long here, based on the strategy that I know, put my stops here, and then let it develop. Probably paper trade on trading you so far. If you bet some money, you would have like risk tolerance built up as well, and then most likely after you have like learned like what price action is, you would want to like hop onto rotations, and to learn rotations, you need to learn what AMT is, and then eventually hop onto like order flow. For order flow, you need to learn what like footprints is, and CVD OI would do enough for you at the moment. But basically, just journal your last 10 trades most of the time, and try not to fade the trend. That's something like, because like if you take a look at the chart itself on the X and Y like axis, it's just like with time and price on the chart, it's just moving up or it's just moving down, right? And the only way it does like either of those actions, it either trends up or it trends down. So that's like really the crux of like pretty much every other strategy as well, right? So you need to like understand the importance of structure, and then you need to get a bit better at execution. Like try to risk like $10, $20, $100. You need to get like some money risk in, so you're not risk averse. You're more like familiar with risk. One more question. Shin, do you give those calls in Discord? Yeah, I do. If your strat is EV plus with good enough data, why would you change your strat? Most likely his like strat was not EV plus. That's probably why. Are you from the Netherlands? Nope. Like Waffles is from Europe, but I'm not from Europe. Wait, taking a look at the chart real quick. Waffles, I think you're cooking.
I added more to my short row, but I had to move my stop up, so my stop's like 91k. I think I'll move my stop down to the recent high, but my average entry now is like 580.
580. Oh, that's pretty. That's almost there. Yeah,
I initially entered at like 90.1 something, and then I just added more at the high.
that's pretty good. As long as it just does not scam above this high, I feel like we have that retracement there. I would just like price to like enter that void again, so it just can like sweep, like pretty much like rotate all the way back down.
I mean, I'm just watching flow, and it's like there's like a little if you look at flow as well, like on the
Yeah, yeah, very well.
96, 64, you can see like the half Batman form there.
Yeah,
It's
there's
it's pretty nice.
yeah. This is the sort of structure that I like to see on TREV. That's like okay, you somewhat sort of like like understand a range structure, and then you sort of see that sort of trap into the highs, and then you would need to see like some more trap into the breakdown, and that just like it's sort of a repetitive pattern for TREV, but it's something that I look for sometimes when I'm trying to like trade TREV. So this is going decent so far. Yeah. By the way, I'll have to like go to the gym as well. And looking at the current price, it's most likely that we follow up as long as we're below the monthly open and we don't like pop back up above this like specific level. We're gonna go back lower, right? And most likely play out the short the waffle is expecting all the way down to like here. And I've shared like how I would be looking to like trade breakout. Any lasting words that you want to say, waffle?
Not much. There's not much else to say. Like we covered everything. I'd say the main thing here is just remember that like price can range for longer than you can stay liquid for. So just don't try and be a hero. Like remember to take profit.
Yes, sir. Do we have any more questions? Have you used MMT for footprints or only XJars? I personally like trading on XJars. Have you tried MMT waffles?
Oh no.
No, it's not. I don't think it's. I'll have to like see what's going on. Right. We'll just let price develop and we'll just like yep. Because I have like work to attend to as well. Thanks everybody
I'll
for
get you.
joining in. Yeah. Thanks, Waffle, for joining the stream as well. We'll probably have one more stream later on, Waffle, because I had like some work to do.
Yeah.
Probably do it for a bit longer next time. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Thank you, Waffle, for providing his inputs. Very valuable, actually. And we'll see Waffle in some other stream. Thank everybody for joining. See you guys. Goodbye. Take care.
You guys take it.